Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. And boy, with this crew here, I'll tell you one thing: this is going to be undoubtedly one of the best crews I've assembled in a long time. Three familiar with, and we have a Fire Up Michigan. And boy, is there an echo in the back? Because unless my voice is very deep, it's going to be pretty messed up. Okay, but anyways, glad to have this crew here, and I'm very pleased to welcome John Henry Smith. And just to let you know, folks, okay. John Henry Smith participated in the chat room. And what happens when you participate in the chat room? You get to sit here and talk with us. So, John Henry Smith, welcome to the big show.
Like I said, thank you guys for keeping me distracted while the NBA draft lottery is going on. I can't watch the Pistons lose out on Victor Wembanyama, and they only got a 14% chance, and I know they're going to lose out, and I can't bear to watch. So thank you.
Oh, don't worry. We'll keep you distracted over the next 45 or 50 minutes. Also, the other members of the crew include Smoke and Jeremy B, who will be manning the chat room. Anything that you say, he's going to go out and address it. And my co-host is Mel Farr Jr., who has gradually asserted into this role, and he's done a dynamite job, Mel.
Well, great to be back, guys. Appreciate it.
And last but not least, George Eichhorn.
Hey, good to be back, guys.
All right, so let's get this bad boy going. We'll go out there and give you an overview. I'm only going to break down the Detroit Lions nationally televised games, and then maybe don't be surprised that they can end up on three more. Mel Farr will take over, and Mel's going to have a free-for-all with the rest of y'all. So with that said, sit back, enjoy. Let's have some great Detroit Lions talk on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network / YouTube channel. All right, with that said, though, before I go into the regular stuff, the audio version of Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just send the topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com, or take the John Henry Smith message and participate in the chat room. We'll get you here. And last but not least, okay, if you want to advertise, call me cost efficiently, 954-304-4941. And we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. All right, now we got all that stuff out of here. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions nationally televised games. And we're going to talk about one that really didn't get talked about, but Lions always find a way to play a preseason game on nationally televised game. And this time they're going to get it in week 3 against the Carolina Panthers. That'll be on CBS. No time has been determined, but they could end up there. But the ones that stand out now, week 1, we all know the opener against the defending Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. That's 8:20. And the last time the Lions played on NBC was a good omen because all they did was defeat the Green Bay Packers and sent Aaron Rodgers out on a losing note. And NBC gets them again. That's on September 7th, 2023. In week 4, okay, at Green Bay Packers, Prime Video gets them. So, once upon a time, George, you and I lived a Thursday night game, and the only one that won out of that was Candy Ebling because it happened on her birthday, and the Lions put on a good show, and Aaron Rodgers went out there and stole the show with a Hail Mary. I told him that afterwards. George thought we had it handled. And I said, George, I have a weird feeling something could happen. And lo and behold, Green Bay Packers pulled the win out. We'll continue on to 3 more. Okay, in week 8. And, of course, the Packers game will be on Thursday, September 28th. Week 8, the Las Vegas Raiders, ESPN 8:15, Monday, October 30th. AKA in Detroit, Devil's Night. Okay, so we'll see if the Lions can take advantage of Devil's Night. And for a lot of you people that don't know what Devil's Night is around the country, it's the night before Halloween where people get to go out they try to do some stupid stuff like vandalize, and then they get candy the next day. Nah, that's okay, but that's a Michigan thing.
Hey, Scott, can I just say something about Devil's Night?
Sure.
And all y'all who grew up in, Mel, you probably remember this as well, man. I mean, I'd have people talking to me from around the country like, oh, my God, I saw it on TV. Detroit's burning. I step outside of my house. I said, I don't see any smoke. Ain't nothing burning around my house. I don't know what you're talking about. So I think the Devil's Night thing, I think it's one of those deals where there was one fire and all the cameras went to one fire. I'm just saying.
Well, the only thing I'll mention about Devil's Night is how many eggs got thrown at people's windows. Everybody's soaping the windows, and all of a sudden they get the
Yeah, a little bit of that.
TP in the trees.
Toilet paper in your trees. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. All right. So I gave Devil's Night too much attention, but I had no choice. And then, so we're talking about Monday, October 30th, but no better opponent really than the Las Vegas Raiders. So, the Raiders aren't really considered known for good, okay, because of the way they dress. Never mind. All right.
The Raider.
There you go. Week 12, the Lions host the Green Bay Packers on Fox, 12:30 p.m. Thanksgiving, a rivalry renewed. And the NFL got it right there. And I know you're nodding your head, Jeremy. Everybody will get a turn. And then finally, week 17 at the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, or it's December 30th. So I don't know what day that falls.
It's a Saturday night because
Saturday
they
night?
do not
Okay.
play when New Year's Day is Monday.
Gotcha. All right. Well, ESPN ABC gets a crack at it. Now, in the no surprise category, okay, week 10, Sunday, November 12th at LA Chargers. That's a CBS game at 4:30. I wouldn't be surprised to be America's game of the week in that time slot against Justin Herbert and Chargers. And week 15, dates to be announced when they host the Denver Broncos. That's a flex situation. And then week 18, TBD, host the Minnesota Vikings. We know about the week 18 drill. All right, around the horn. Okay, Jeremy, give me your thoughts about the national stuff.
Well, everybody can say it's 4, but it's 5 when you include Thanksgiving because no other games are played in that time slot. That is a primetime game, whether it's at 1 p.m. or it's at 8 p.m. because the entire nation watches it. That which tells you that football's still the daddy of all the major professional sports. That being said, they're getting at least one more. And I think it's going to be because there'll be something on the line for week 18 versus the Vikings. Because if this team is anywhere near as good as Vegas and everybody else thinks they're going to be, and on paper, they shouldn't win less than they won last year. They should win at least one more, if not more than that. So I have a window of wins at 10 to 13. I bet you if that's going to make the difference between the 2 or the 3 seed, that game will be flexed to Sunday Night Football.
Okay, fair enough. And what about the other 3 that we don't know about? The Chargers, Broncos, and the Vikings.
Well, because it's at 4:30, there's other games played. It'll be on the national market, but in the local markets, if that team sells out, it trumps in that area. So it will be everywhere else, but in those markets.
Okay. All right, Mel.
They your question is about the national televised games.
Yeah, the Lions have 5 regular. They have
Well,
they have, have
this
1
goes
in the
to show-
preseason and 3 that could be. Go ahead.
Yeah, typically, we don't get that. We don't get this opportunity to see the Lions on national televised games that often. It just goes to show what type of product that they're putting out there right now, or the product that people feel that they have, based on the way they finished last year. That's why they get an opportunity to open up, by themselves against the defending Super Bowl champions. I mean, that's a heck of an honor, and you're going to find out real quick what kind of football team you have. Find out early, what you look like. Last year they started off a little bit slow. Hopefully, they don't get out the gate slow like they did last year, and they come out swinging. But to have them on TV, just shows how some of the things that they've done as far as the brand is concerned, the type of football that they're playing, that people are interested in watching and seeing the Detroit Lions play. I think that fares very well for the team and also for the city. I think it's a good look for both.
Okay, John Henry.
I tell you, in years past, I would look at the schedule when it came out, and I would, go down. I would look at a few games, and I would say, "Oh boy, we're playing them. Look out! That's going that hide your women and children. That's going to be ugly, And there'd be like 2 or 3 games on the schedule like that. This 2023 Detroit Lions team and that 2022 team in the second half of the year, there's no team I fear. There's no team as a Lions fan that I look on the schedule and say, man, those boys, that's the varsity and the Lions are the JV. I don't see it. I mean, I have not had that confidence in a Lions team since I would say since the 1995 team when and that team started like 1-6 or 2-4 or something like that before they pulled it together and finished really strong. I have a lot of confidence that this team is going to go out there and do the best, play up to their ability, because I mean one thing I love about Campbell and Bradholmes is that they've really gone out of their way to bring guys who love football, who care about football, who think about football, who will play football in an intelligent manner. And so just like in Green Bay, when we had nothing to, there you go. I say I don't play for the Lions, but when the Lions went out there and had nothing to play for except the fact that they were on national TV and that they just wanted to play well. They wanted, and it meant something to them personally. I think that you're going to see that Lions team go out there and put their best foot forward in all these nationally televised games. And we as Lions fans should fear no team, as I'm sure the Lions will fear no team.
Well, we might as well just put them in the Rodney Dangerfield category. They didn't get no respect, and it took one more game to get them on national TV, right? I'm thinking about Rodney Dangerfield, John. Okay.
Yeah. I tell you, I can't get no respect around here. But back to school, I can't decide what I like more, Caddyshack or Back to School. All-time classics, both of them.
That's funny. All right, George. I can't keep a straight face with the
Oh, man. Yeah, this is like icing on the cake for Lion fans when this schedule was released. I can just imagine the excitement that was pouring out of the facility in Allen Park as well. The Lions haven't been on this kind of schedule for television for a long, long time. Let's face it. Some of these games are going to result in short weeks. I don't particularly care for these Thursday night games. It's even shorter for Thanksgiving because they play at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's a very short week, these Thursday games, but it also for their opponent too. I look at they play Atlanta in week 3 at home, and then Green Bay 5 days later on the road. So, at least they'll be home for the Sunday before they go to Green Bay for that one. The other one, the Raiders, I mean, really, Monday Night Football is Monday Night Football. It'll always be a special event. And, the Raiders probably can't match the Lions, obviously, in the depth and man for man, but that'll be a fun game too on October 30th. And the other one I really like is that Dallas Cowboy game. Now that one's going to be in Dallas, and the eve of New Year's Eve, December 30th, it's being played. And that'll be very interesting as well. And getting back to your point, Scott, yeah, there's opportunities for them to be added on.
Right.
Either the Denver game or the Minnesota game are more likely to be one of those two that would be added on as far as a national broadcast goes. But yeah, it's exciting. I mean, starting out with Kansas City, the Lions have never been on that Thursday night opener, and other teams haven't been either. But that's because the Lions haven't been good enough to deserve to be on that Thursday night season opener. So all in all, it's a great schedule. It's exciting, and it's really going to showcase the city and the team for sure.
Can I say something, George, about that rest thing you were talking about, the Thursday night thing? Uh-huh. There's a guy named Warren Sharp who does a lot of analytical work. And I follow him on Twitter. He put out something today about the net rest that each team is getting via their new schedule. So the team that's getting really screwed by the schedule, for example, according to Warren Sharp's analysis, is the San Francisco 49ers. He has what he calls a negative 20 net rest. So in other words, they're going to have 20 fewer rest days than the teams that they're going to play. So
wow,
that may come into play. I mean, the Lions and the 49ers are going to vie for the NFC Championship. The Eagles have a negative 6 rest. The Lions, they're smack dab in the middle at negative 1, tied with Dallas. So the schedule makers have been kind to the Lions in that way.
Oh, good. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, no problem.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm turning it over to Mel. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule, and the schedule makers may have been kind in that way as far as net rest is concerned. But as far as the scheduling, last year they had the the AFC East and the NFC East were the teams that they played again. This year, they get the NFC South and the AFC West. So the NFC South, not too much to worry about. I think there's only Tampa Bay last year went to the playoffs. AFC West, we probably, we know who's in the AFC West, and so you kind of wonder, well, how did they pick the Lions for that first game? Well, Kansas City, they're playing the NFC North. That's going to be some of their opponents. They're going to play everybody in the NFC North. So out of the NFC North, other than Minnesota, I guess it made sense for the schedule makers. For the schedule makers to choose the Lions. So their bonus games, they get the Ravens, they get the Seahawks, and they get the Cowboys. Teams that all went to the playoffs. They played the Seahawks last year. I think they lost to the Seahawks last year. But the thing about the schedule to me that intrigues me, and what I was talking to my brother about, is you're going to find out real early what you're all about, what kind of team you have, because you're going to open up against the defending Super Bowl champions. So you're going to have an opportunity to find out, what kind of team you have. Although they did start off slow, we thought they had a good team. Looking at, watching Hard Knocks, you look at Hard Knocks, okay, this team might be pretty good. And then they get out the gate slow. But I guess they're kind of like that horse at the Kentucky Derby, where they were kind of hanging in the back. And then they on that back stretch, they started coming around. And then once they hit that final turn, they started really pouring it on them. Unfortunately, just a little bit too little, too late, as they missed the playoffs last year. So I have the Lions looking at their schedule. I know Vegas, I think, has them about 9.5. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at 10 wins, and I can see a path to 13 wins. I can see a path to 13 wins. I can honestly see a path to 13 wins. Everybody having taken a look at this, what do you think? How do you think the Lions will fare this year, Jeremy?
I've said in the beginning, and I'll say it again. I have their window of wins at 10 to 13. You're spot on, because there's only really 4 games where the other teams have a legit shot to smack them in the mouth. The rest of them are either toss-ups or they should beat them handily.
All right, Mel. So what is your window of how many wins the Lions should get?
I got no less than 10, but I see a path to 13. Kind of
we'll say 10 to 13.
Since we have Mr. Obama here, kind of taking like they do in the presidential elections. I see a path to 13.
You see a path. Keep hope alive.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying 10 to 13 with you. All right. Well, go ahead, John Henry. Where are we going with this?
I don't know. I don't tend to get into how many they're going to win. I mean, I think this team is strong enough and smart enough and well coached enough. That's what I love about this team. This team has Ben Johnson running the offense. This team has ex-players at every position coaching these guys up. And I don't fear any of these. There's not a team on the schedule that I say the Lions are just completely outclassed by. So, yeah, certainly. I mean, if in a season, boy, I mean, people get hurt. Guys go on gambling sites on team property and things happen, so guys are in and out of the lineup. So there's a lot of vicissitudes of fortune that happen, during a season. But if everything goes right, if they get the breaks, if everything goes right, yeah, I mean, certainly they can have double-digit wins. And the biggest thing is, are they going to be – I think they'll be a battle-tested, hardened team for the playoff run.
What about you, George?
Well, last year I said they would go 7-10. So obviously they did 3 better than that. 10 and what was it? 9-8? 2 better. 2 better. So I'll go 2 better this time. I'll go 11. 11-6.
11-6.
Yep.
Yeah, I figure, I'm looking at it, I think they'll beat the Chiefs. But then, typically what the Lions do after a big win, they're going to fall flat on their face and they'll probably lose to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are going to be, that's going to be a tough game for them. But like I said, I see a path to 13 games without question. It's kind of, you look at the schedule and you see they play Minnesota twice at the end of the season.
I don't like that. That's
right at the end of the season. I don't like that. I mean, I know what the NFL is trying to do. What they try to do is they try to get those division opponents at the end of the season where, because every game matters in the NFL, just like college football, every game matters. So, they try to get those games, those meaningful games at the end of the year so they can, get eyeballs. Obviously, they're trying to attract eyeballs, and it's smart on their part. But, to only have the 1 week in between, I don't particularly care for that. So, but, that's obviously going to make for, because Minnesota, what they did last year, where they finished off last year, where the Lions finished off last year, is probably going to make for some must-see TV.
Hey, Mel, can I interject one thing about that? At least the schedule makers this time didn't put the Lions in godforsaken. I shouldn't say that. They didn't put them in,
right.
they didn't put them in 20 below frozen tundra Green Bay in the last or the second to last game of the season, as it always seems they do. We get to play in nice, comfy Minnesota's. What do they call Minnesota's facility? I've been inside of it. I can't remember.
EIA, some Bank Stadium or something like that.
Yeah, whatever that stadium is, it's beautiful, and it's warm. And
right.
They'll play Minnesota in two warm facilities. I'll take that over Green Bay in December with the playoffs on the line any day of the week.
Absolutely. They play Green Bay earlier in the year. So, that's one of the things you look at as a player. Okay, when are our cold weather games? That's the first thing you look at. When do we play Green Bay? When do we play Chicago? You're not worried about Minnesota because they have a dome, but that's one of the first things you do. And you just got to get your mind right at that particular time.
I call that place the Skull. I call that place the Skull Asylum.
Yeah, so I'm going to add a couple things here. I believe that you're looking at 11 to 13 wins, and I believe, isn't it Key Bank Stadium? I believe, if I remember,
something
right.
like that.
Yeah,
man, I remember the old days at the Metrodome. My goodness, those are interesting times.
Metrodome.
And John,
Hubert Humphrey.
The Spurs got the first pick, just so you know. The Pistons got the fifth.
I'm
Really?
glad, man. I am so glad I didn't have to watch that live because I would have been
now.
My TV would be destroyed right now.
So now,
thank you.
So now, the smart thing to do is take that trade from Cleveland and give them that fifth pick.
Well, all right.
I don't even want to think about it.
Let's stay on point.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, I see 11 to 13. I do. And, I can tell you right now, if anything, I'm just glad that the Lions and the Packers are on Thanksgiving Day. That, to me, is unbelievable. In fact, not only that, what's interesting is both of the Lion games against Green Bay are national television. Don't you think the networks know how important it is to have the Lions and the Packers on national television with or without Aaron Rodgers? You got Jordan Love. And let's face it, Jared Goff has become a capable quarterback as well. And Hendon Hooker is waiting down the road. So go ahead, Mel. I just wanted to incorporate those things in there and wheel it around whatever way you want to go, Mel.
In the middle of the season, right dead smack in the middle of the season, pretty close to the middle of the season, they go to the Ravens. How much fun is that going to be for our Detroit Lions? Lamar Jackson right now is the highest paid player in the NFL. Probably has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. They got some new weapons over there, some new additions via the draft and also free agency. They got some new players over there. They were a playoff team last year, although Lamar was hurt for a good part of the season and didn't participate in the tournament. But I'm sure the Ravens are looking to rebound from that performance last year, and that's going to be a tough game for them. What do you think, Jeremy?
It could be a tough game. Will Lamar still be playing, or will he be on the sideline injured? That is the question at that point in the season. The other thing I like about this schedule breakdown and where you're talking about is that you realize that the Lions technically do not have 3 road games in a row, because when they do, the bye week breaks it up.
And instead, they usually give the Lions the bye week at week 5 or some foolishness. I mean, this year, week 9, that's great. That's just what they needed.
I mean, I like the idea that football fans, especially those in Detroit, get to see Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson the same year. I know I dealt with this with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I've covered them for the last few years. But to have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, that's a pretty good test for your defensive unit, and you better score a lot of points, right, Jeremy?
Herbert.
And him too,
yeah. You're going to see Herbert. I mean, that's a lot of firepower there.
Baltimore is going to be a tough one. They got Tampa Bay and Baltimore back to back on the road. Tampa Bay shouldn't be a problem, but the Baltimore one is going to be a tough game.
Russell Wilson, will he be cooking, or will he still be burning stuff?
Will he be playing? Will Sean Payton bench him?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think Russ will be cooking it by that time.
Well, here, the Lions. I mean, the Lions this year. I mean, you go back last year when the Patriots looked like they had a pulse, and then you look at the quarterbacks they faced. They faced the kid who's now going to be benched in New York, Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Zach Wilson, and they faced what's the brother who's a perpetual backup but a good backup.
Teddy Bridgewater?
No, the other one. No.
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett. Yes. They faced Jacoby Brissett, who was a good quarterback, but not a world beater. So I mean, the Patriots were fool's gold last year because they had to face not exactly the exact opposite of a murderer's row of quarterbacks. Now you look at what the Lions are facing this year. I mean, shoot, they've got, as you said, Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, Prescott, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins twice, Justin Fields twice, Russell Wilson, and I'll throw one at you that's probably not on your radar screen, but Desmond Ridder. I throw Desmond Ridder out there because the Lions got absolutely cooked by running quarterbacks last year, and it started in the preseason, and it never got any better. I'm going to tell you who the underrated MVP of the Lions is going to be this year. Adrian Martinez, undrafted free agent from Nebraska and Kansas State. Is he going to play in the game? Absolutely not. Not unless everybody else's arm falls off, for sure. But that guy is going to be playing. Okay, this week, Adrian, you're Lamar Jackson in practice. Get us ready. They're going to see looks in practice that they haven't been seeing lately with the likes of Tim Boyle and David Blau. And don't sleep on that. That's going to be helpful.
So,
it'll
John,
be helpful if he can
hold on,
football.
Jeremy. Hold on. Okay, I got an idea. We're going to have a little fun here. It does happen. So, John Henry Smith, do you know what a myocardial infarction is?
I know. What did Muhammad Ali said? I don't know what that is, but don't sound good. I don't want it.
Well, It looks like you just gave Jeremy one of those because you don't like this Adrian Martinez guy.
You're not a fan, huh?
No. 51 touchdowns, 59 turnovers, over 30 interceptions. He had 21 fumbles and 16 losses.
And he knows his stats off the top of his head. I love that. But guess what? He's not ever going to see the field for the Lions. The point is that son of a gun is going to run all over the Lions in practice, and they're going to be ready when they face Lamar. They're going to be ready for a change.
Wait, they got another mobile QB on that roster, but was not signed as an undrafted free agent quarterback. That's Owen Thompson, the quarterback, halfback, fullback, wide receiver, tight end out of Virginia.
Yeah, and maybe he comes through, but he does. That dude runs like a 4.7. I checked it out.
4.65.
4.65. There you go. I always round up, but I mean, so my man, Martinez runs a 4.5. He's legit fast. I'm just saying. I'm salivating at the idea of him finally making the Lions practice against players like that in practice when we haven't had that element in a long time.
I mean, he can be a developmental guy, that's on the practice squad. Hey, I spent a lot of time on there, and I played the quarterback position too when I had to, whatever position they needed me to play, whatever, tight end, wide receiver, guard, whatever. So I'm sure he'd be more than happy to do it because he's going to be getting himself an NFL check. So there's nothing wrong with that.
So let me ask you guys a question. Have any of you heard of Jim Jensen?
Of course.
You have,
God.
yeah.
Of course.
Oh, of course. You're a Miami guy, too. You work on these markets. All right. Well, all right. Anybody else heard of Jim Jensen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, Jeremy. That's okay. The Dolphins aren't your team anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Thank
So
God.
you get a mulligan on this one. And, George, you never heard of him either? I covered the Miami Dolphins when they picked them up. They even drafted a quarterback late in the draft, and they added Jensen. And I'm going to defer to John Henry Smith on this. Why did Jensen make the team, John Henry?
Because he was versatile. That son of a gun played tight end, played fullback, played special teams,
Right.
could play fourth string quarterback. He was basically your Swiss Army knife. And
The more you can do, man.
The more you
The
can
more
do.
you can do. The more you can do.
So now you're referring to a Lions guy here, right? That can do as much? Like Mel said,
Well, it's a little bit different. You're talking about a guy in the practice squad versus a guy who's on the 53-man roster. So it's a little bit different.
It is different, but you know what though? You never know when you got those mobile quarterbacks around what can happen. We hope for that won't happen because you still have Hendon Hooker, who I think is really going to get a redshirt year anyways.
He is.
When he rehabs. And then you don't really know what's behind Jared Goff. I mean, Nate Sudfeld. Yeah, but I think whatever.
Yeah, one thing about
the Lions will probably be looking for another backup quarterback before this is over with. So go ahead, George.
I said that doesn't thrill me at all having Nate in there. You just got to hope and pray that Goff doesn't get hurt. But no, I mean, these quarterbacks that they're facing on the AFC, those are tough quarterbacks, no question about it. The versatility, the running ability, like you guys said, and that's going to be something that the Lions got to face. Obviously, other teams are facing them too. It's not just the Lions.
It's not unique to the Lions, right?
So, so you got to play, and that's why you got coaches. That's why you got scouts. That's they're trying to devise ways to stop these guys from running, and the Lions have made improvements defensively. Let's be honest. Going into the offseason, there was a lot to work on, and they did a hell of a job on the secondary, especially. And so there's ways to stop these running quarterbacks, and you just got to figure out a way to do that, and you got a better chance to win the ball game. And I think the Lions have good enough coaches to do that.
We can't lose sight of the fact that we're doing this show here on May 16th, 2023. Who's to say the Lions won't snap up a backup quarterback between now and training camp, a veteran, and
Teddy Bridgewater?
I know you're choking up over these comments, right, John Henry?
What do you think, Tate Martell?
Yeah, but this guy's good.
No, I didn't say Tate Martell.
Man.
Teddy Bridgewater.
The character came out of the chat room to make an impact. No, but you never. They could very well snap up a backup before training too. Well, John Henry, I knew you were a character, but boy, you're taking the word character to a different extreme.
Hey, but Mel, let me ask you a question as a former player, man.
Sure.
So now you and I were at different ends of the gene. I was at the shallow end of the deep gene pool. You were at the deep end, so you were a lot better player than I was back in the day, man. But one thing I did, man, I was an outside linebacker when I played defense, and one thing I knew to take the pitch, man. I knew upon pain of death from my coaches, maintain that outside contain. No matter what you do, maintain that outside, ferret the action inside to the inside linebackers, to the DTs, and let them take care of it. I watch NFL football all the time, and particularly the Lions. I've been watching the Lions for the last few years. Those running quarterbacks were killing them, and I'm just like, do any of you have the pitch? Who's got the pitch, man? Who's got the outside contained? And I just feel I see these defensive ends taking a route right down the line of scrimmage, opposite field, pursuing a play that they'll never get to, instead of maintaining their outside contained. So now I feel like if the Lions fix that, they'll be able to do something with these running quarterbacks. What am I being overly judgmental of NFL outside edge players by railing on them about their lack of attention to detail that outside contain? What do you think?
No, everybody has an assignment. And when you face a running quarterback, you have to play assignment football, and you have to do your job, not worry about the other person's job. You can't go in there and try to make the big play, because you might end up giving up a big play because you go in there and try to make a big play. So you have to do your job and trust that your teammate is going to do his job, because you're sacrificing by doing your job so that your teammate can make that play. So everybody just has to do their job. But then the other thing you have to remember is those other guys are getting a check too. It's not like you're playing the JV out there. Those guys are getting a check too. So your job is to, not let anybody outside you. The other guy's job is to get outside you, to hook you. That's what his job is. So, and they're getting a check. They go to that window on Monday too, and they get a check as well. So, it's a battle of wills. It comes down to whose will is going to win. Is it my will or your will? And that's the great thing about inside the trenches, is it's really a battle of wills. And towards the end of the game, you start to see one team's will start to overshadow another team's will, where they starting to enforce their will on the other team. That's why you see a lot of these teams are able to run the football well in the second half, because they've started to enforce their will on that team. And that team has started to give up a little bit because they're just being dominated by that other team. So you just kind of you lose your spirit a little bit, and you just kind of give up, and you just allow them to do whatever it is that they want to do to you. So it's just, and that's the part that I like. I like the running part of the football. I'm old school. I like to run the football. All this throwing and stuff like that, that's great. But when it comes crunch time, you better be able to run the football so that you can shorten that game, so you can get on out of there, get in the locker room, get a win, get a W, get in the locker room, and get on the plane and get on out of there.
Well, against all these athletic quarterbacks, that's what I'm going to be watching for this season. Because as a guy who used to be an edge, I mean, I saw Aiden Hutchinson get better at that as the season went on. But boy, and when he played Atlanta in the preseason, they were eating him alive, making him chase things that he would never catch opposite field. So if the Lions can fix that, Hutchinson in particular, they're going to be able to do something with Jackson and running quarterbacks like that.
And every team struggles with them. A lot of the Lions aren't the only team that struggles with them. I mean, you even look at the college level, like Nick Saban. I mean, running quarterbacks gives his defenses fit for whatever reason. His defenses have a very difficult time with running quarterbacks. I don't know if it's because of the assignments that the guys are getting. They're missing their assignments. They're not teaching the assignments properly. They're not following their keys. Whatever the case may be, his defenses just have a difficult time with running quarterbacks. So, hopefully, this year Aaron Glenn, they've done a lot of studying. They know who their opponents are going to be. The schedule's out. They know what Lamar Jackson brings to the game. Now, I think Lamar Jackson is going to be a little bit different this year as opposed to last year because, they don't have the offensive coordinator there anymore. They brought in the guy from Georgia. I think they're going to want to try to throw the ball a little bit, try to protect him a little bit.
Right.
They got these receivers that they brought in there. I think they're going to want to try to throw the ball a little bit more. So that's what Lamar did. That's what Lamar did in college. He ran when he had to, but he was he threw the football and threw the football very well. So hopefully he gets an opportunity to get back to it. Because if he wants to see a third contract, that's what he's going to need to do. He's going to need to learn how to throw from the pocket area, not necessarily be a pocket quarterback, but at least be able to throw the football and just run when necessary. Not these design runs that they have, little wing T offense, stuff like that.
All right, Jeremy.
Which teams actually did well against the running quarterbacks? The teams that have running quarterbacks. Philadelphia. The Bears did good against running quarterbacks. Atlanta did good against running quarterbacks because they had Mariota and his pro comp rookie, Desmond Ridder, down there. Because both are mobile, both are smart. Even Russell Wilson, he's still mobile. He's just not as mobile as he used to be. But that's why their team did good against Mahomes and Kansas City. They do good against mobile quarterbacks. Here's the reason why I think we could have a very good start to the season. Who's our first mobile quarterback? And if you say Geno Smith is mobile, he has the same 40 time as Goff.
Well, so does Patrick Mahomes, but Mahomes
runs smart. He runs smart and runs different.
For a 4.8 guy, that dude runs like a 4.6 guy, even though he's a 4.8 guy.
But it's not designed runs. So when you're playing man to man, and he sees everybody's backs turn, he's a smart quarterback. He said, "Hey, everybody's backs turn. I'm gonna go ahead and take off and run." So he's a smart quarterback. He's going to take what the defense is giving him, basically. That's
Very
what he's
smart.
doing.
Yeah.
But what do they struggle with the first 6 weeks of the season in Kansas City every year? And it's been religious, even though they've made 3 Super Bowls and won 2. Defensively, they do not get it going until week 6. That is why Detroit has their best chance to beat the Super Bowl champions in week 1. I'm glad the schedule worked out the way it did.
Plus, you got lots of rest to play Kansas City. You're not playing them coming off a game where you're banged up and all that. You got some rest going in, so that's great.
Programming note, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk follows Fire Up Michigan tonight. Our special guest tonight will be 1980 World Championship pitcher Warren Brewster. He'll be on at approximately the top of the hour, so we're looking forward to having Warren, and we have a big crew for that. So the only thing I'll say about mobile quarterbacks I'll give fans 3 things: hold your breath, cross your legs, and don't have a heart attack, because any of those 3 things could happen if you're relying on these guys to last more than 10, 12 years. I've seen so many of them fall, unfortunately. Randall Cobb, I know, was one, and the list goes on. I'm not even going to get into that because who knows what that'll be about. So, great first act for you, John Henry Smith. I love your candor. I really think it's fantastic. So, it's just great. We find a guy like you out of the chat room, and what do we got? a guy that's a true broadcaster, and you never know what you're going to find anywhere, whether it's
And a
on
Morehouse
LinkedIn.
man.
Huh?
And a Morehouse man.
There you go.
Morehouse man. There you go.
You can tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell him much.
There you go. Well, you know what? We got a knack for this business. So on a show like this, where I really don't have to say a whole heck of a lot, it's good that I have 4 thoroughbreds that can do it. George Eichhorn and I got to tell you, the last 2 nights, we've been more observers because we like it when, the crew does what they got to do. Although last night's show really didn't require a major crew, but it was a great one with Jerome Juranovich. The CNN guy was unbelievable.
Yeah,
what a great time talking about the Lions schedule. So I'm going to take it from here. So Jeremy,
I'm talking back to you, Scott. You got it.
All right, Mel. That's okay. You're the best, Mel. That's all I can tell you, my friend. So, all right, closing thoughts on the Lions schedule. I'm going to start up at the top with Jeremy.
If they go through the first 6 weeks and end up at 500 or better, 4-2, let's say, it's going to be a great start to the season.
Okay. Mel?
First 6 weeks, you said?
Yep.
I got them through the first 6 weeks, 5-1.
Oh.
Wait.
Now, hey, they could be 5-1.
You on that Kool-Aid.
Sipping that Kool-Aid.
I see a path to 5-1.
I need to do that TikTok saying he needs some milk.
you look at who they're playing. I see a path to 5-1 the first 6 weeks.
Okay. Hey, Jeremy, he's entitled to his opinion, as everybody is. Okay.
I know, but I'm just saying that's
I know you're like
Kool-Aid.
I am now. You're doing your do thing a little bit later, but that thing called sleep is something I do need once in a while. And for whatever it's worth, here in South Florida, I have a networking event at 7:45 a.m. with the Coral Springs Regional Commerce, and I have a lot to make sure that how to address this whole thing. Okay, John Henry, let's talk about the schedule. Some final thoughts.
Here's what I want everybody to remember. All right. They are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have a doggone 4x100 team in their backfield right now between Deneric Prince, the guy they just picked off of the UDFA, 4.40. They got the kid from Rutgers last year who surprised everybody. He runs a 4.4. They got a lot of speed on that team. So I want everybody, if things don't go well in that first game, I want you to cast your attention to 1991 Lions opener when they played the Washington Redskins. Anybody remember the score of that game?
Wasn't it like 102-0?
It was 40, and not quite bad. It was 45-0, nationally televised Saturday night game in 1991 that I remember watching live and saying, "Oh Lord, it's going to be another one of those years." What was Lions' record at the end of that year? 12-4. All right, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Game, didn't
they? Was that the? Did they played the Skins again? I think they got destroyed by the Skins again. I mean, the Skins were good back then. But the fact of the matter is that whatever we saw last year, how this team started was not how they ended. And I have every confidence that if the worst case scenario happens in KC and they just have one of those days, don't write this team off. I have faith that Dan Campbell is going to get through to those guys and the rest of those coaches and get whatever mistakes he made, whatever mistakes they made, fixed and turned around. Just remember 1991 if things don't go well. That's all I'll say.
That's good enough. All right, George.
Well, Mel said 5-1. I'll say they could go 4-2. I got them losing to Kansas City and my other losses to Green Bay in the first 6 games. So I would go 4-2. I want to go back to that point you made, Mel, earlier, which is a very important point. There's one cold weather game, basically, December the 10th in Chicago. The Lions got a hell of a break on that cold NFC North Division turf, let's call it. So that is a very important point that you brought up, Mel. There's only one game, cold weather, that I see. There could be some storms that come through and we don't know, that go through the system and hit us. But basically, I think the Lions got a very good schedule. They got some tough ones for sure. But I'm with you, Jeremy. I'm glad they're playing Kansas City right off the bat. And like you said, John Henry, they rest these guys anyways in week 3 of the preseason. They're only playing 3 preseason games, so they have plenty of time, Detroit does, to prepare for Kansas City. and the onslaught which they may see from Mahomes and company. So that is a very, very important point, in that the fact that they got 2 weeks to prepare for that game, the opening night. And obviously, I look for big things from this team this year, Scott, but the schedule is an exciting one. It's a dynamic one for Detroit and for the national television audience.
Well, I got to say this. I'm glad the NFL reduced the preseason from 4 to 3. Once upon a time, they used to have 6 and 8 back in the 70s. So I'm not going to be started there. So, but I'm not. Okay. So, yeah, now I've been to Soldier Field lots of times, and I can tell you how cold it is in December. Well, I got to tell you, Soldier Field was beautiful during Christmas because Michigan Avenue was great. I was having a lot of fun on Michigan Avenue, staying at the Lions Hotel. So, we can talk about early start, but we also lost last year. They got off to a horrible start. I don't think that'll happen this year. However, we're talking about a team that was 9 and 8. So the expectation is, and they're certainly getting great media respect, that they're going to be better. You could unseat, Minnesota. I believe they can do it. I don't know about Green Bay yet, and Chicago's made some improvements. So it'll certainly be interesting to watch the NFC North division, as Chris Berman would kindly say. So with that said, really enjoyed this edition of Fire Up Michigan. We're talking about the Detroit Lions NFL 2023 schedule. We'll play it out, play this broadcast, and you can check us out later in the year. It'll be a little while before you can do that. So what I'm going to do is, before I finish up our thoughts here about how to get a hold of us, Smoking Jeremy B, lead off.
Well, first of all, you can find me on the southfloridatribune.com. You go to the 3 little hashes on the left-hand side, put all in the menu, and see the Motor City Tribune, where you can find me with the likes of Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn, and this guy right here, Jeremy T. Ballrick, as your list of authors. That way you can find my content where I write about the NFL and mostly the Detroit Lions, of course. Then you can also find me right here on this channel any day of the week that Scott needs me, because I'll show up. Then you can find me also on Wednesdays and Fridays on my YouTube channel, Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. Wednesday is my NFL show, and Fridays are my Lions fan cave chat till the season starts, and then I go to 5 days a week then. And you can also find me on Twitter at Smoking Jeremy B. You can also find me on Facebook at my Lions page called Motor City Kneecap Biters. Come check us out. We're growing, we're strong, and we have a very positive group.
Turn it over to you, Mel.
You can find me on all the social media at Melfar Jr. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and find out what we have going on here in Georgia and also in Michigan for the youth at melfar.org.
Okay, all right, John Henry.
I don't have any blog. I'm not really, doing this professionally. I'm doing this as a fun little thing because you guys are so knowledgeable and cool. But I tell you what, though, if you want to follow me on my Twitter page at JHSJHS the third, if you want to follow me there, I give a lot of Lions commentary. I share a lot of my Lions thoughts every single day of the year.
And last but not least, the author.
Oh, the author, yes. I got a little book here, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. There's a link to it. You can purchase it by just following the South Florida Tribune and then the Motor City Tribune I write for, as Jeremy said. And there's a link at the end of my column, and you can get yourself a nice book about the history of Detroit sports broadcasting, including our host here, Mr. Scott Morganroth, with interviewing Muhammad Ali, Jimmy Connors, and it's a great book to have. I'm available at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter at S&G-Sports99, and also you can reach me on LinkedIn, of course, as well. And I joined Scott on 108 Stitches and Fire Up shows and wherever else he needs me as well. And we have a lot of fun. So glad to be part of the show tonight, guys.
Very good. Everybody, good job. Let me give some information. My Twitter, if you want to follow me, is at Tribune South. And I repeat, at Tribune South. Feel free to follow me there. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. So you can find all of our content there as well. Special kudos to Candy Ebling, who does a marvelous job on and off the air, making sure the website is the best that we can certainly put it out. Also, the audio version of Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Chat room's one way to do it. The other way is send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. And last but not least, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Great first act for you, John Henry. Hope to have you on down the line.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You certainly held your own. Not that I have any doubts about you, especially after talking to you. I knew that you had something in common with Robert Redford. You're the natural, so we'll leave it at that. So.
Oh, that's high praise.
Oh,
Yikes.
yeah. Well, that's okay. Hey, listen.
My God.
One thing I do is I believe in positive reinforcement. I call them the way I hear them and I see them. It may take before I used to do it, but I still have it anyways. So meanwhile, that concludes this edition of Fire Up Michigan. Please join us for 108 Stitches Baseball Talk immediately after the show. So on behalf of Smoke and Jeremy B., Ball Wright, of course, if you want to know his real last name, and Melfar Jr., John Henry Smith, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on Fire Up Michigan, and we'll catch you on the next time. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk follows Annie very shortly on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Good night, everybody. God bless. And we have no problem down the line as you watch this show going forward to go ahead and give us our report card on the win totals because everybody's going to do it anyway. So good night, everybody. We'll catch you the next time. Bye now.
Good night.
All right.
Good night. So, George.